shoot, where am I gonna put you this time? Good morning, everybody. My name is Mariah. This is my dog, Finn. This is my Ford Transit camper conversion that I converted with my boyfriend a year ago. Welcome to my channel, where I make videos that just so happen to be about van life right now. This video in particular is about things that I love and things that I regret about my van. Before we get started, I am gonna talk about the basics of this van. It's a Ford Transit, 130-inch wheelbase. It's a medium roof Transit, which means that after the conversion, it is only like 5'8" inside, which is wonderful when you have a 6-foot boyfriend. As far as layout goes, I've got the kitchen, swivel seat, upper cabinet. I've got a 2-person bench seat right here that has a table that slides out the entire length of the bench seat. I've got cabinets that run the entire length of my driver's side of the van, and then I've got a bed that was designed with window nooks to make the bed exactly 6'1/2 inch. So, as far as electrical goes, I have two 100-watt solar panels on my roof from Renogy. I also have the Renogy solar charge controller that trickles down into one 100-amp-hour lithium battery from Battleborn. We only cut 2 holes in this van, one for the upper Fantastic fan and one for my Motion Windows window. So, let's get into the actual juice. Let's talk regrets. The number one thing that I regret isn't actually about my van build, it's about the van itself. I regret 2 main things about what I did. Number 1, I bought a new van. No. And number 2, I bought the medium roof. I'm not so upset about the wheelbase, but the height restriction is a big deal when you're somebody like me who has a history of dating guys that are giraffes. I was single when I bought the van. I should have known better. If I did it again, I would 100% continue with a Ford, but I would get a used Ford Transit 148-inch wheelbase, high roof. I made a very, very large boo-boo when I made the selfish decision to get a small van. My second regret is choosing the Fantastic fan over the Max Air fan. I was sold on the Fantastic fan based on a Van Lifers website that I think was hastily made. It was in the beginning of the van build where there was just so many decisions to make. It was so overwhelming. I was so overwhelmed to the point where when I found somebody's website who swore by certain products, I did not even question their validity. I just added it to my cart, closed my eyes, and pressed checkout. And then when it came, I installed it, and now I've been living with it ever since. There are a couple of reasons why it's not my favorite thing in the entire world. Number 1, it kind of sounds like a windows open when you're driving, which is sort of frustrating. I don't really know if the Max Air fan would be any different, if I'm being honest. Number 2, you can't use it when it's raining, which again, you can get a rain cover for it, so I suppose there's also a solution for that one. But the third thing that really frustrates me is the noise that it makes when you run out of power. So I run out of power quite often, I would say. It's an issue. It's one of the things that I'm going to talk about next. So when I run out of power, which typically happens around 2 a.m., what happens first is my inverter starts to beep and I have to push my inverter power button that's there. If my fan is on when my battery dies, it doesn't just like shut down, close itself, and call it a day or call it a night, right? Because it's the middle of the night. No, instead, if I do not immediately, within 10 seconds of my inverter beeping, push my Fantastic fan remote to turn it off, if I forget to do this, it starts to make this sound. It sounds like a sonar alarm, weird beeping pattern, and it does not stop. The only way to make it stop is by either pulling a fuse, hitting the kill switch on my entire battery system, or unscrewing the casing for the entire fan at 2 a.m. and undoing the wiring. And I have the fan that doesn't have like any buttons on the actual fan itself. It's just a remote, which is just as annoying as it sounds. The only other thing that doesn't have an off switch is my fridge, and it doesn't do anything. And I think that's how it should be. Anyways, I wish that I'd gotten the Max Air fan. I know that it's probably a little bit more expensive, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. I've also noticed that van lifers who started van lifing 2.5 years ago, every single time that they do a remodel or do a second build, they always switch out the Fantastic fans for the Max Air fans. The next thing that I regret doing is this doggy door. So when we were designing the van, we decided to go with a 3-compartment garage. So my garage has 1 compartment for the electrical, another compartment for the dog crate, and then another one for my water and backpacking gear and all the other good adventure stuff. Now a couple things. First of all, I think that the separation was actually a really good idea because it allows us to stuff one of the compartments all the way without having it spill over into the next one. What I want this to be, and what I should have foreseen in the beginning, was maybe, just maybe, we should make this a toilet. So we would basically cut this wider, do a new piece of wood, put one of the compostable toilets or something on some sliders or wheels or something so that you could just pull it open and a toilet would come out. I will say that I'm glad that we did it the way that we did it because I didn't have the money for a toilet in the beginning and I probably won't have a toilet for a while. It's just nice to know that that can easily be converted into a toilet compartment. So, everything else that I regret about this van are very petty things that I can easily change and add. So, for example, this lovely two-person chair. It's perfect to sit like this, or like this. I can even sit like this, right? I will say that if I'm editing a video for 8 hours at a time, maybe sometimes like 12 hours at a time, the worst is when your butt starts to feel like it's bruising. And I cannot wait for the day where I splurge and buy myself a cushion. Yeah, simple stuff, really. Another simple thing is the metal that's still exposed in the back. I want to cover that and this with some auto carpet. That's simple. I also need to switch this thingy out to the same window covers as those ones back there. These are nice window covers that I bought off of Etsy. I like them a lot. I paid a lot for them, but I think that it was worth it both for the insulation and just for the ease of use. This one is really annoying. I think magnets are better and I want something that can roll up and then like Velcro to itself. I guess I could make this one a Velcro to itself thing. I just think that this is frankly really ugly. And I've got a whole gray vibe going, so it would just be nice to have gray here too. I missed one. So the last thing that I need to talk about is electrical. So like I said in the beginning, I have 200 watts of solar on the roof and a 100 amp hour battery in the garage. Now, two things are wrong with this equation. Number one, 200 watts of solar is not enough for any human with a laptop and a fridge in the winter. In the summer, I had really relatively no issues. But now that it's winter time, I'm realizing that I am in for a long winter with limited power. Although I have, I'm gonna call it 100 usable amp hours of storage, it's not enough. So yeah, in the future, I'm going to start by adding an alternator charger to give myself more input. I'm no longer just going to be charging my batteries with a solar panel, I'm also gonna be charging my batteries with my engine, which is actually a much more direct charge. The solar is kind of complicated because in order for the solar panels to be able to charge my battery already has to be above 9 volts. Now my battery doesn't ever get actually below 9 volts, but it does read below 9 volts when it truly dies. Very complicated. I'm not going to get into it. Okay, so now I want to talk about things that I love, but I don't just want to talk about the things that I love about my van and just be a bragger, because I can be a bragger all day. I'm so proud of this thing. Although I'm not really bragging on my behalf. I was the apprentice, the builder was my boyfriend, whatever. Now I wrote down a list of things to ask yourself, like things to consider if you are in the beginning stages of a van build. The first question is stationary bed versus some kind of like bed to table setup. I personally obviously chose the stationary bed because I know that I'm not the type of person to be able to wake up every single morning and make my bed into something else and every single night have to make my bed into an actual bed. I would probably just end up sleeping on my couch. So I chose to have a stationary bed, and I'm very, very glad that I chose that. Similarly, I'm glad that I also chose to have a table setup because it was very important to me not just to have a bed in here, but to also have somewhere to sit and to work. Obviously, I also have this bad boy that you guys are sitting on right now, the two-person chair, and then I have this table that comes out that I get to work on. I personally love this setup. It's super clean. It just is how it is. How it is. There's no overthinking it. I love it. Now, speaking of seating, I wanted to be able to host people if I had to. I can comfortably sit 3 people, 2 in this chair and 1 in the swivel seat, and then I can kind of comfortably sit 5 by adding me sitting on the bed and somebody sitting sideways in my driver's seat. So I've had up to 4 people in here and it hasn't been weird or uncomfortable. It's actually been very awkwardly comfortable, in fact. When it comes to the bed, not only is it important to know if you want to have a stationary bed, but if you do choose to have a stationary bed, first of all, do you want to have it front to back or side to side? We chose to have it side to side, which super complicated the build, but in the end, I think I'm way happier with how it turned out this way, and I would not have been happy with how it turned out if we did it front to back. The second thing is making sure that the length of your bed is going to be enough for you. I'm 5'3", so my bed did not need to be any more than 5'5", but Coleman, my boyfriend, is 6 foot, so obviously it was important to us to build a bed that he could sleep in comfortably. Our bed ended up being 6'1.5 inches. We are very proud of it. It was a lot of work to get it actually to that point. I don't think that it's necessarily easy to do that, but I think it's doable. I will say that it added a whole month onto our build, but again, it was worth it in the end. The third question that you want to ask yourself when it comes to your bed is, can you sit up all the way? Not just can I sit up all the way, but can Coleman sit up all the way? Or if you're solo, how tall are the guys that you usually date? I should have done this from the beginning. I know what kind of guys I date. I know how tall they usually are. They're typically giraffes. You know yourself. You know what I mean? And obviously there's going to be outliers. But luckily I ended up actually doing the build with a person who was going to be halfway living in it. So we were able to together figure out how to maximize the space to fit both of us humans. The next thing that I'm super proud of is that we prioritized ventilation instead of insulation. Now a lot of people will say that insulation is like everything, and I will say that if you're in extreme cold weather, yeah, you're gonna want to prioritize insulation, obviously. Personally, the way that I am, we tried not to overthink it. It was way too much information. There's just like always somebody out there on Google to contradict what you just learned from somewhere else on Google. We ended up going with Foam King. If I did another van, that's exactly what I would do. I would do the roll of Foam King. I actually don't know if it's called that. I linked it down in my description under the Amazon links. It's there if anybody actually cares, but it's basically just a piece of foam with adhesive on one side and foil on the other. I just think that it's totally fine. I've never really had a problem with the van being too hot or too cold, because odds are we have the window open and our fan open, if not all of our windows and our fans, which was very important for us because of the dogs. So sometimes we do leave the dogs in here. If it's hot outside and we have the fan on and all of the windows open, it's never hotter in the van than it is outside. The only time that it is hotter in the van than it is outside is when it's cold outside and we close all the windows up and we stay inside. Anyway, my point is that if you have dogs, or even if you are yourself and you want to be able to work in your van and or be cooler in your van than it is outside, you're gonna want to prioritize ventilation. We did that by having obviously the Fantastic Fan, and then by adding a window that opens. Now, the window that I chose was from Motion Windows. I probably wouldn't go with them again, only because it frustrates me that the window isn't super symmetrical to the van. I'm not going to go into that, but I think that having a window that opens is great. And if you can have 2 windows that open, even better. And if you can have 2 windows and 2 fans inside, you are set, baby. Anyway, something else to consider: how easy is it going to be to make your bed? Is your bed going to be easy to make, or is it not going to be easy to make? My bed is the easiest thing in the entire world to make. Like, it's easier than a house bed to make. I'm very grateful for it. The next question that I have written down is, where are you going to pee at 2 a.m.? I know a lot of people are just going to say, well, go squat or pop a squat. But like, are you always going to be somewhere where you can pop a squat? Are you going to be comfortable walking into Walmart at 2 a.m. to go pee? Are you going to be comfortable walking in at 2 a.m. to a truck stop to go potty? These are all the questions that you gotta ask yourself. You gotta figure out what you're gonna be comfortable with, because it's a lot easier saying that you're gonna go pee at 2 a.m. in a truck stop versus at 2 a.m. actually having to get out of your van. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. That's my take on it. I know a lot of people who would be okay with it. Personally, that's not me. I guess the whole point of this is you gotta know yourself. You gotta be able to self-reflect enough to understand what you're gonna be okay with, and if you are just gonna make decisions based on what somebody else says is okay, the universe is gonna put you on your ass, you know? Like, the things that I chose because of other people, they just never worked out well. So, oh, this is a good one. This is one that I did not think about, actually. How easy is it going to be to charge your phone when you're on your phone and it's dying at 9 o'clock at night and you want to sit there and stare at your screen and get all dopamine rushed from this little square device? Why am I getting so weird? Anyway, my outlet is just on that wall and my head goes on that side. So I actually have to turn myself around to plug my phone in on this side, and if I had thought about that, I would have just added another outlet on this side as well. As far as the kitchen goes, I chose a lot of big appliances. Like, my fridge is huge for the space. My sink is a literal shower basin. It's not actually literally a shower basin. I'm just being exaggerative. I prefer that. I know that I want a big sink, and I love it because I can shower in my sink. Now, maybe you don't want to prioritize a big sink. Maybe you want to prioritize cooking space. Personally, I actually would like more counter space. Second to last question. What happens if there's a water leak? How much is going to be ruined? This is one of the questions that is going to inspire an entire redoing of certain things in this van. I want to put a water tray in the back where my jugs are. I want to do something here to make sure that if the worst possible scenario happens, that I'm not completely screwed, because I think it's a big deal, and I think that ignoring that is, I mean, ballsy. The last question that I have here is, if there's an electrical issue, how easy will it be to work on it? For me personally, like I said, my garage is split up into 3 parts and my electrical is in the first one, but it's all the way in the first one 4 feet inside of a big hole. And yeah, it's a big hole. I can fit into it very easily, but will an electrician get into it? I still haven't found out, but I thankfully have not needed to figure it out because it seems like my electrical is doing a-okay. Yeah, that is things that I regret, things that I love. There are plenty of other things that I love about this van, but I think I'm gonna save that for a tour, which I have not done my own tour. I know I need to do a tour. I know that it'd be smart. I know that it's about time, but if I'm being honest, I just feel like I'm not in my element enough to film a tour that I would be dead proud of. So I'm gonna wait until I feel a little bit more confident in myself. I feel like my style changes every single video. I'm still trying to figure myself out. Anyways, I'm hot as hell. I have all the windows closed because I've been filming and it's too loud outside. Thank you guys for watching. If you've made it this far, maybe consider hitting that like button. I hate that. I will see you guys in the next one. Finn is being way too cute to move him, so I'm just gonna say bye!